My name's Peter Robbins, and I'd like to welcome you to this session on genome engineering futures and the role of the synthetic biologist. And like others before us, I'd like to thank the organizers for allowing us to put together this quite wacky and different session, which I hope will work well for a Sunday afternoon when people are lulling to sleep after lunch and with jet lag and so forth. I've worked quite closely with Jane Calvert and Emma Froh putting this session together, and we've also roped in Chris Sugden, who's an Oxford PhD student, to help us out. But this session is quite different. It's not based on papers. It's based on really you interacting around looking at different future possibilities, statements. Jane is going to tell you the specifics of the exercise, but the idea is really behind this is to provide a space within the conference for conference members to think through possible futures and what role the synthetic biology community might play in those futures, which we think is important for the community, which is undergoing such transition at the moment and thinking about where to go next as it evolves. And with that, I'll hand over to Jane.
Yeah, thanks very much. So basically, we're asking you to choose one of these statements, the one that most appeals to you. And then, as you can see, we put the statements on the middle of these posters, and we'd like you to put the things that you think might cause that statement to happen above the statement, and the consequences you think might arise from that statement below the statement. We're going to give you post-it notes to write these causes and consequences on. Like we said, this is meant to be an interactive session. You can be as wild as you want to be, or as restricted as you want to be as well. It's entirely up to you. So this is what hopefully you're going to get. You're going to have some post-it notes above the statement, some post-it notes below the statement, causes and consequences. And you can have alternatives. You don't have to just have one story running through your causes and consequences. You can have chains of events, like if this happened, then this happened, then this would happen, and then that would happen. Or you can also cluster your events or issues together if you want to. So just to kind of give you a reminder, the kind of questions you can ask yourself about the causes is, why did this situation arise? What would it take for this scenario to happen? And who would be responsible for bringing it about? And we'd like you to be quite specific, if possible, rather than just coming up with a kind of general event. Try and think about a kind of specific thing that might happen. And in terms of consequences, what might be the consequences of such a development? What might this scenario mean for synthetic biology? And who might be affected by this development? So I'll pass over, sorry, I should have said I'm Jane Calvert from Edinburgh. Pass over to my colleague Emma.
So basically, just to reiterate, this is quite an experimental session. What we want to do really is to stimulate discussion, and really, I think, with the statements that we've provided, really to consider sort of more explicitly some of the ideas that have surfaced over the course of the conference, but maybe haven't been treated or sort of thought through in the form of a conversation. So a lot of the statements that we've put down. How do I go back on this? This way. So I'll put the statements back up again. So a lot of them are sort of quite deliberately provocative. You're very welcome to sort of think about the statement in a variety of ways, to challenge it, to think about how realistic you think it is, to build that into your causes and consequences. We're not looking for any particular answers. We don't see there being any right or wrong answers. This is really just a chance to flesh things out. One of the things we did think was worth mentioning, I think, is that thinking about the causes we feel will help to ground us in the present as well. So it's very easy to kind of put forward a future scenario and to go from there. But one of the things we're interested in doing is thinking about how we might get from today, from the conversations that we're having today, to different possible points in the future, and then what might happen. So I think ideally what we do is have you choose now whichever statement you're most interested in. They're all up, so figure out where it is on the walls, and we'll be sort of roaming around as well for the next half hour or so. We'll work on sort of causes and consequences. If you've got any specific questions now, clarification questions, maybe we'll take them now. Otherwise, we'll be sort of roaming around and very happy to kind of answer questions and help out where we can. Yeah, ideally we'll have a couple of people at each question. So you maybe want to see which question you're most interested in, and then we'll see if there are small groups clustering around certain questions, and try and group people together a little bit. All right. Yep.
So, anyone interested in thinking about question 1? No? Question 2?
Okay. Someone for question 2. All
right. Question 3? Question 4? Question 5? Yes. Excellent. Question 6? Yes. Question 7? Question 8? Good, excellent. And question 9? Right, and we need, everyone has to choose a question, I'm afraid. So most people haven't chosen one yet.
So you can wander to one of the other groups.
You can, yeah. So you think about it and choose a question, then try and find it on the wall, which is the next exercise.
If you've got a couple of questions that you want to answer, we might try, we might sort of spend 10 or 15 minutes on one question, and then everyone can have the chance to move around to another question as well. So if you're struggling to choose one.
Basically, you're going to have to stand up.
Sorry.
Yep. So over here we've got synthetic biology delivers biofuel for under $10 a barrel. That one's there. This one is iGEM competition is closed down over here. And the 1 cent per base pair is one there. So you just have to look around to find yours. And do we have?
I think James.
Okay.
You got pens, James?
Yeah.
If you want to use these pens, or you can use your own pen.
Do you have to believe it? Absolutely not. Part of it is, I mean, they're provocative statements. They're meant, if you think that that's unrealistic, maybe think if you can turn that productively into causes and consequences, that would be great. What would it take for that to happen? And why might that not be realistic? Okay? Yeah. In whatever order you like. But if you can somehow think about it in terms of why it might not happen, why it might not be realistic, that would be great. All right.
Do you need pens?
I kind of want this stuff. I mean, if it worked out all right, that would be really cool.
Yeah, exactly. So you know the cost of inputs stuff, so what
People drove around.
I'll bring that up actually. That might be helpful. We can bring the causes and consequences.
Yeah, we'll work a little bit.
Yeah,
I think one of the things we should maybe do is let people
That's good, yeah.
I mean, let people work on
It's probably better.
Yeah, you can
If you want to roam around and add posters, whatever posters you want, that's fine.
Yeah, and right now.
Yeah, we do put on the Any questions?
No, it's whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, this I'm kind of thinking you might write on D and stick the ball. Yeah, but you.
Just rather than this.
Yeah, but you can use that pen. You can use your own pen.
We have a black pen.
We'll link them together. You check your phone. Oh, your helpers are your IT people. You can choose what you want.
And that has to be taken as well. You know.
Yes, yeah,
You could have a small fundamentalist religious bioethics tomorrow that makes that.
I know, so I thought it'd be more interesting to group with other people.
We kind of hopefully get a few more.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's that. Should we maybe just change this and get everyone to spend 5 or 10 minutes as a group? It's really hard to get. Yeah.
Consumes resources.
Yeah, statements.
Well,
look, there's no work on that.
Yeah, and there's no be
But it seems so simple. It seems really straightforward. Viruses.
Well, yeah.
But you've got 2 of you on this.
Viruses.
Yes.
Are you both working on it?
I think so.
You were in
Do you think that this is a statement that's, realistic, what's happening in some
for property rights,
yeah. Yes.
It's just like somebody would have to break up.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Get that part. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Sorry, I didn't maybe I could
those are questions to help you think through what might the crop is about, and what might be the outcomes of it. So, yeah, who, what, why, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so you're finished.
All right, how about this one then? Next.
Yes.
No, well, they claim on your own life. You know, just to be tuned. I'm working on it all. So he actually so if people are there any blank ones yet? Oh, that's blank ones. Here you go. Yeah, no, she was the older. Just went around. The example you were missing, I'm sure you noticed, was how central any of the exports were to the economies of the exports. Well, I mean, massive.
Really? I didn't know what that
Yeah,
was.
and that's why it's the story that everyone always uses. For one particular company,
It was
USM or somewhere, they do, they did it in quite a short period of time. So that's what it's like.
expectation of what I would find when I researched that case and what I actually found had no resemblance. It was really shocking. So I assume the one you're talking about devastated, right? Of course, this was.
What's happening with the financial institutes?
Yeah, we got a lot of this stuff, so this one. Worse in this stuff. 60 years. Unless you're sort of well, the first time. He's the one guy. And I don't claim any critical foresight. Like I write his books, it's like, oh, he's right. That must be what's happening. He's the guy that should get all the credit. I feel miserable because I'm talking to everybody in both documents. I'm talking to Mark all the time. This is not. When I see that, it sucks out. This is a this is a culture. I don't know. Look for a structure, look for a structure. This is happening. It's better. Plausible one that doesn't have walls that actually.
And it also feeds into the watermark question.
I wonder.
Okay, we're going to have 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes on the posters, and then we're going to convene for a discussion. Yeah.
Really?
Yes,
That's
he said that yesterday. So, and, yeah, so there's kind of a 100-fold. Yeah.
You ready to give it a couple minutes? Okay, good. Yeah, let's give it a couple minutes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Start there, yeah, and then move around each one. Yeah.
That does tell the truth. Okay. I don't know what it is I'm writing, but I'm reading it.
I mean, what we could do is we go around and people could draw.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for or bad for.
What we could do also is we go around and maybe interaction.
We can add more. I'm not sure.
I won't. Vibrates. Overexpression by what multiple the roles are people. Ah, hello, should be just infringement 30 years out of date or something is discovered that they are really, yeah. You know, not 30 years, but you know, they've taken somebody to court 20 years later because they've discovered that when you do that, it's like, what? I didn't know that was patentable. I know my wife. I don't really know.
So I think we're going to reconvene, and
But we're not going to sit down.
we're not going to sit down. No, but we're going to start up with where Emma is in the top left-hand poster, and so Pierce and we're going to reconvene up here at the top one with Emma, and we'll just talk through what kinds of things you came up with and how they might relate to each other, and have a bit of a discussion.
There's also some discussions about what sort of biologists you talk about as much as it makes a big difference whether it's a tiny little institution that might have a minimal impact on broader issues, or whether you talk about an international, legally endorsed bioethics committee regulatory oversight, which takes that.
Yeah, because if a small one, then you wouldn't have
Okay, so the consequence we have are no moral or religious objections, therefore it stands up. Synthetic organisms are therefore mere lab materials to be used in any variety of applications, food, material, fuels, and so on. Protests by justice or environmental, religious or religious organizations. A large increase in monopoly claims or patent claims. All consumed animals become watermarked. Not living anymore. Legal institutionalization, leading to blood sports without fear of prosecution. The watermarks could be removed. Or humans can incorporate watermarks into their own DNA tattooing, leading to property rights of self.
interesting connections between watermarks and property rights, which I suppose don't necessarily have to go together.
That's why it was put in the first time. That's part of the justification.
Yeah.
Better having
Yeah.
that.
That was my only thought process, was straight to better. Why put it as one?
So, a couple of statements leading to, I suppose, scientific applications, but in fact most of the consequences of this relate more to other instrumental uses of animals in life, and discussions around that.
I mean, do you think it's realistic that this might happen?
No.
Do you think the opposite would be more likely to happen?
No, I mean, for sure it's like that. But the question I think you raised is absolutely right. Who's the biologist in this one?
Yeah.
I could have said the biologist to more of it's exactly that. The case.
I can imagine synthetic organisms being defined non-living, but not purely on the basis of having been watermarked. I don't see that as being a criterion. But I can understand that if it's
What other criteria might be?
some significant deviation from natural, so something like that. But just because it has a stamp, to me, I don't think people would accept that that's different.
What about the realisticness of having a bioethics committee that can assess synthetic biology? I mean, like one.
The trend, I think, is towards an advisory capacity rather than a regulatory capacity. If you look at the US as a microcosm for the rest of the world, and it's the only reason that they just advise and not to regulate. So you could see that they have a mandate to carry out similar activities at an international level. So in a way, there is a sort of international bioethics advisory committee. But it's actually more, I think, exporting the US views to the rest of the global consensus.
So in principle, nothing could happen on the basis,
But that's one of the notes that says it's oh no, it's not. No.
No, so nothing could happen. Or there could just be a kind of furious debate about what living and non-living entities are, or I suppose we could have a number of consequences that relate, people accept this relating to the use of it.
One thing that's not there is that you have, there'll be a reason for this happening to happen. I guess would be visualizing the biology stacked with industry interest. It would be because it would allow for a certain line of argument. So you'd have that line of argument. Things like this was definitely nothing happening.
Should we move on to the next
Yeah, we can move on to the next one. Yep. So this is about the EU moratorium on commercialization of synbio products. So we'd like to talk. We've got deliberate release, good for the EU. Food for business, run by policy-making member of the EU, or good for the EU. Safety mistake. Accidental release, a citizen-led process brings synthetic biology issue to EU Parliament. Media spooks the public. Right. Are there any particular futures that are more or less likely? Causes that are more or less likely here.
Can I ask what the good for the EU means, or what was said?
It wasn't me, but I can see what that would be. So it has potentially, just as we've seen with GMOs. Who was it? It wasn't me.
Who put that?
Me. It's of course it's good for people and for organize for a country to manage and to achieve the progress and to manage the progress. Of course it's good. I don't know if I get your meaning.
It's successful.
And and the bad for trading is also for me. So good for you, bad for trading.
Oh, trading.
Yeah,
trading.
For
Yeah.
trading.
Yeah.
That's right.
Also within the EU, it's kind of a protectionist measure.
I don't know why you only miss the EU.
Well, it's because there was an EU moratorium on GM crops. Maybe because we come from the UK, we're biased. But we just thought maybe something similar happened to synthetic biology.
Yeah, perhaps.
And it was a case of just picking one region. So,
Yeah.
Not
global.
global, because that has consequences, like you say, for trade and things
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, we could go to the consequences. So, bad for trading is one. Great for trade from non-synthetic biology dependent countries. A black market would be created. Nothing changes. Research carried on in EU, commercialization subcontracted out. The U.S. dominates synthetic biology industries. Australasia ignores it, collaborates with China. That's an interesting one. EU market and organic natural products grows, which is sort of what's happened with the GM thing. Companies and academia develop non-synthetic biology workarounds to same outcomes. Right. So again, what's striking about those? Let's see.
I suppose because there aren't many synthetic biological products at the moment, that would explain the one that says that everything carries on, nothing changes.
Yeah.
Who wrote that?
Me. There's also a comment on the fact that, within the EU there's a tendency to have very good basic science when it comes to ability to commercialise science.
Wasn't there a British report just like a month ago that said that our ideal research strategy is to keep doing what we're doing, just subcontract out all the development to the Americans, something like that? Yeah.
That's not been.
That's nothing new. I thought that would be the
Yeah, but I was like, usually that's condemned, and I just remember reading that they were like, no, we should keep doing this. Was the conclusion?
But I think fed into that, it leads to exactly the same situation. I mean, you've got a moratorium on commercialisation on that, not on synthetic biology research. So you could imagine a situation where the work is still done in universities, and you have manufacturing plants in Asia or subcontinent of America that you just then send in. It'll be a global industry by that point in time. You do research where the universities are in production, where it's cheapest to produce your stuff.
Send your secrets on.
Mm-hmm.
And the consequences are mostly sort of trade related and
around commerce and trade, isn't it?
There's an assumption in at least 3 of them that it's beneficial to work around as well.
Yeah.
That's a theme.
And that it's possible.
Yeah, I wonder, this black market would be created as a kind of an interesting one to me. I wonder how that might unfold. Someone who...
Import it.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, if something is controlled, some people wouldn't like to be controlled. So just opposite of that.
Mm-hmm. There's a missing thing now, which is about testing identification of products. They have to develop protocols in ways of identifying the urgent black market, the presence of.
So identifying what a synthetic biological product is, which is an issue with GM as well. And that would enable a workaround if it was quite a narrow definition.
Well, this is also interesting thinking about how the construction of products inside of the EU. You could manufacture a shirt in China, fly it into the EU, put the last button on the label, and claim it was made in the EU. Would that work in reverse? Could you produce your synthetic biological organism inside the EU, put it outside, package it there, and claim never touched the EU? It's not a EU, wasn't.
Well, that would be part of the commercial process. That would be commercialization.
There would have to be some sort of line drawn between what would be